So, we need to discuss the biggest question of the offseason. Tom Brady.
Welcome to the Rines Report with your host, Tristan Rines.
So the biggest question of this offseason, Tom Brady for the New England Patriots. So many what-ifs coming with Tom Brady's decision. I'm going to try to break this one down, try to dissect it before the legitimate offseason craziness begins. We just got past the Super Bowl, but as you saw in that Hulu ad, I mean, it stirred up so much controversy during the Super Bowl, post-Super Bowl, and we're still trying to figure out what is going on in New England, what is going on with Tom Brady, what is the free agency situation this offseason. The Patriots already have their own major questions to answer this offseason, but they do begin with Tom Brady. Can the Patriots get him back? Everything hinges on Tom Brady's eventual decision to stay or to go. Obviously, he's going to continue playing. The Hulu ad this past Super Bowl Sunday only answered that he is going to continue playing. I know at times in the ad he said, to my friends, my family, my fans, while in Gillette Stadium, I'm not going anywhere kind of thing. But I don't think that was necessarily a reference to saying, hey, I'm going to stay in New England. Especially the days since then, we've seen there's still negotiations, there's still talks, there's still a lot of speculation going around, especially when it comes to the Patriots and Tom Brady. I think he's still obviously playing. He made that very loud and clear in that ad, but whether or not it's going to be in a Patriots uniform, well, remains to be seen. While the ad was shot in Gillette Stadium, home of the Patriots, there is no pen on paper. Until there is pen on paper, I am not going to commit that he is going to be a Patriot at the beginning of this next season. We do, however, have three separate questions to answer though. I feel like I've broken it down to three separate parts to look at this entire, you can almost call it a debacle. You could look at this entire, situation, this entire, landscape, what happens in the NFL offseason, but essentially, really, it just revolves around Tom Brady, his decision, and what things could look like for the Patriots. The first question, will the Patriots re-sign Tom Brady? And I do think the most likely landing spot for Tom Brady, I'm going to say it right now, is back in Foxborough in a Patriots uniform. He does want upwards of $30 million for his final season or two. We do know he wants to play until he's 45. That's always seemed to be the goal. I mean, the TB12 stuff seemed to be working pretty well. I'd argue that, he's still playing at a pretty solid level. Multiple sources, the Patriots are willing to pay him upwards of $30 million a year. So I think it just comes to finding that common ground, that common number between the two. I still think he is Bill Belichick's, Robert Kraft's, the Patriots' best chance to get back to the Super Bowl. And he knows McDaniel's offense. He is a leader in the locker room. He helped evolve this culture into what it is now. And honestly, if I'm the Patriots, I'm looking at this and saying he is worth the money to re-sign him, and then address the other issues surrounding the team. Things like tight end, wide receiver, and of course, multiple free agents. And speaking of free agents, the caveat of re-signing Tom is you have limited funds to keep other established Patriots. It does seem like the Patriots do want to get younger. That seems to be an initiative of Bill Belichick. Typically, they've gone to free agency to make this team better. And while I don't expect anything necessarily different in that respect, I do think they are going to place more focus on the draft this upcoming season. But there are guys that are hitting the market. Guys like Pro Bowler Matthew Slater, second team All-Pro Joe Thuney, star safety Devin McCourty, he's been with the team ever since he got drafted as well. Captain on the defense, Kyle Van Noy, who has vocally said he wants to stay in New England, and a number of other players. Yet, Tom Brady, with a good enough offense, we know this defense is going to be pretty solid regardless of a few pieces leaving or departing in free agency to go get some bigger checks. I think he can lead this team once again to another Super Bowl, even with a very pedestrian offensive cast. Julian Edelman, by the end of the year, was playing essentially with one leg and only one shoulder. No Rob Gronkowski anymore, playing with a Benjamin Watson who had a torn, ACL for the entire season. Matt LaCosse was very underwhelming. N'Keal Harry still figuring things out. They still got to the playoffs in a 3 seed. While they did lose to the Tennessee Titans, I'd still consider getting to the playoffs for this squad with the #1 defense in football, I understand, to be a pretty successful year nonetheless. Now, the desired outcome, obviously, not another Super Bowl, but, you can't look at this entire season and say, well, it was a train wreck. While offensively it was, defensively there was a lot of promise. I'd say the Patriots are still going to be in good position if they can improve the offense, get some better personnel around Tom Brady if he does come back. And I think that window is still open for the next couple of years. Now, what happens if the Patriots fail to re-sign Tom Brady? Well, in short, it's the end of the Patriots dynasty as we know it. The Patriots will be a different team without Brady under center. The overall play will obviously change. I think a number of other guys will either depart in free agency or retire. We could touch on that a little bit later. But the offense is someone else who didn't help mold the offense. It's going to look different. And speaking of the next quarterback, nobody is really quite sure who would be the heir to the throne, so to speak. Jarrett Stidham, while he did get a few snaps during the regular season, throwing a pick six to Jamal Adams, wasn't a good sign of trust established by Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and whoever else is in the room making those kind of decisions. Tom Brady finished that game after stepping out. Would the Patriots bring somebody else in from the draft? This is a really good quarterback draft, it seems like. I mean, Jake Fromm, you got Jalen Hurts, it seems like Tua Tagovailoa, and of course Joe Burrow are going to be in the top 10 picks, top 15 most certainly. Joe Burrow favoring to be the #1 overall pick. Free agency, I mean, you got Andy Dalton, Teddy Bridgewater, you got a couple big names. Ryan Tannehill has not quite re-signed with the Tennessee Titans, although it does seem that the organization would be leaning in that direction. The comeback player of the year helped lead the team to the playoffs, as well as Derrick Henry. That's a big, question for them as well. I'm sure at some point this year we'll be talking about free agents, but no one is quite sure what the backup plan here is. I don't think there's necessarily a backup plan if Tom Brady leaves. I think there's just a complete scrap it all, start over. We're gonna see what we can do with it. Obviously, the culture will undergo some changes without the guy who helped everyone buy into it. Notable Patriots have said in interviews that it starts at the top, and Tom Brady is one of those people that would just take criticism in those kind of meetings. And if you're one of these younger players taking criticism from Bill Belichick, you see Tom Brady taking these kind of things, then you realize, hey, look, he buys into it, it works. Other key veterans doing the same thing. And this entire offseason, there's a lot going on. There's a lot, on the line for the Patriots, but it could very well, again, start with Tom Brady. Now, do not expect the Patriots to be a Super Bowl threat if they don't get him back, especially in the AFC, which looks like it's going to be going into the Mahomes era, the Lamar Jackson era, some other solid teams on the come up, of course. And at best, this team could contend for an AFC East title, but the Buffalo Bills even look to be the next team coming up. The AFC East has been really tricky outside of New England, but the Bills right now are the strongest contender to take that crown. And obviously, nobody will be able to just walk in there and replace the production, the leadership, and the mentality that Tom Brady essentially brings to the New England Patriots. Expect the Patriots to also be in rebuild mode. Players will walk in free agency, either the highest bidder or their best chance to get another ring or, request trades. The organization will face difficulty. They're going to have a tough time getting free agents to come into New England. Those cold winters make things a little bit harder to attract free agents. Bill Belichick still being there, obviously, that's going to still have some pull, but a lot of players in the past have signed on just to play with Tom Brady, but of course also to be there for the coaching. But I do think they are going to find difficulties in signing guys because they won't have the greatest quarterback of all time on the roster. Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels can coast, I believe. I think they'd still manage to get 7, 8, 9 wins. But without Brady, I do not imagine they'll be able to elevate this squad to another Super Bowl within the next 2 or 3 years. At the very best, Patriots' future will be very, very cloudy without Tom Brady. And even if he does resign, it's a reality as football fans that the Patriots are going to eventually face this probably within the next 2 to 3 years. The third question, where would Tom Brady even go if he doesn't even stay in New England? I do think there are a few potential suitors for Tom should he decide to leave from New England. Let's start off with #1, the LA Chargers. There's a lot of speculation that he'd want to go to the Chargers, but let's run down the why he would and maybe why he wouldn't, right? Everyone seems to be hung up on the weapons for the Chargers. They have especially, I think they have a much better offense personnel-wise than the New England Patriots, maybe outside of the offensive line, but they definitely have the skill players necessary to, you know, make big impacts, flashy guys. Keenan Allen, Melvin Gordon, Mike Williams, if they re-sign Hunter Henry as well. The defense has a lot of talent. Bosa, Ingram, Hayward, King, Derwin James coming off of an injury-riddled season last year, but he was very, very impressive his rookie year, so the upside is still there. They're in sunny Los Angeles. A new stadium's being built. Trying to build that fan base to help fill seats, so you know they'll probably pay him a little bit extra just for the jersey appeal, you know what I mean? And, you know, head coach-wise, I like Anthony Lynn. I think he's a solid coach. They're obviously in the market for a quarterback. Phillip Rivers not going to be the quarterback next season, so their options are essentially wide open. The downsides, obviously a different offensive system. McDaniels has said he's staying in New England. This team isn't even close to being one of the biggest names even in the Los Angeles market, behind the Lakers, the Clippers, the Dodgers, the Rams, maybe even the Angels, and USC football, UCLA. There's a lot of big-time sports franchises in Los Angeles, and the Chargers aren't necessarily at the top of that list. Let's move on to our next candidates here. The Las Vegas Raiders have come up very recently as being one of the speculative teams that could interest Tom Brady, and ever since Tom Brady and Mark Davis were seen chatting at a UFC fight, I think the speculation has even bolstered even more so. The Raiders seem very ready to move on from Derek Carr and his very hefty contract if they feel they can get someone as good or better for cheaper, or they could get, you know, obviously Tom Brady would be a better option here. Could also be in a state with no state tax. Las Vegas is in Nevada. Nevada has no state tax, so that's also a nice little plus. And the overall roster is kind of bad by some okay players. Max Crosby, defensive end, was nominated for Defensive Rookie of the Year, so there's a plus on the defensive side. Josh Jacobs, Offensive Rookie of the Year candidate from the running back position. But outside of that, the wide receivers kind of hit or miss. Darren Waller had a really good year. I mean, so there's at least that tight end, but again, offensive. I mean, things can always change over the course of a free agency period, but I don't imagine the Raiders are going to quite completely, 180 this entire offense over the course of one off season. But I think if they did get Tom Brady, it'd be a huge step in the right direction, and the window would be there for at least 1 or 2 years. The downside, I do think John Gruden would be a huge difference in coaching. The culture would be vastly different. Obviously a new offense to learn once again. Wherever he would go, it'd be a new offensive system. But we're also not sure what kind of fan base reception the Raiders are even going to get in Vegas. Still some unknowns that are on the table for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, I'm going to run through a few teams, but I'm going to generalize why. I'm not sure if these would be good fits at all. The Miami Dolphins. Well, in short, I mean, the Dolphins aren't necessarily very good. They seem like they're in the middle of a rebuild still. They're looking towards the future quarterback. Ryan Fitzpatrick already decides he wants to play again next year. The likely landing spots would be the Dolphins. Speculation, of course, also they're going to go after Tua Tagovailoa. The Dallas Cowboys, I think they're going to keep Dak Prescott. I can't imagine that the Cowboys next year are going to be led by somebody not named Dak Prescott. They've also said I'm pretty sure publicly they've announced that they want to franchise tag Dak Prescott, so they've already made it clear who they plan for their quarterback of the future to be. Tampa Bay, I think Arians is a good coach on a team in a smaller market that seems to be, still kind of in a rebuild phase. I'm not really sure, what they're doing with Jameis Winston either. Plus, this team is it feels inconsistent at times. It doesn't appear to be much position to make any type of Super Bowl run. We're pretty confident Tom Brady would want to go to a team that he feels he could be successful in, not a team that's rebuilding. And, finally, Indianapolis Colts. Tom isn't going to go to the house that Peyton built and just usurp his former backup quarterback in Jacoby Brissett, who is trying to make a name for himself. I just can't imagine him suiting up in a Colts uniform. It almost feels blasphemous to me. But who knows, man? It's the NFL. In conclusion, I don't think Tom Brady's going to leave the Patriots. I think there was a lot of noise by a lot of people about what Tom is going to do. But honestly, in this scenario, I really wouldn't listen to too much of it unless it's coming from either Tom himself, Bill Belichick, the Patriots, or possibly Adam Schefter, because he's got connections, it seems like, everywhere. I think Tom Brady is going to finish his career as a Patriot. I want Tom Brady to finish his career as a Patriot, but he is tired of taking pay cuts and just wants what he honestly feels he deserves. Regardless of how I feel or think, we still need to wait and see what's going to happen. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. It's a Rines Report here on YouTube. Feel free to subscribe or watch a previous video. And of course, social medias are all down in the description below. Go ahead, like, subscribe, share, hit the bell on, all the good stuff. Feel free to comment, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Adios.